We're very lucky to be joined by our next guest. Voice of, I guess, the TFC Montreal match, one of the French voices on Apple TV, as well as English commentator at One Soccer. Matt Cullen joins the show. Matt, how's it going, man?
Hey, morning, guys. Thanks for having me. How are you today?
Can't complain. There's a lot of matches today, so it's always good when we got a lot to watch.
Absolutely.
And speaking of watching, you got the opportunity to call the TFC Montreal Can Champ game, and now you're going to call the game this weekend as well. A, what did you make of the Canadian Championship game that happened midweek where Montreal kind of controlled the match? And B, what did you make of all the things that happened after the match?
Yeah, it was to be perfectly honest, it was a pretty ugly night for Toronto FC at BMO Field. It was I've seen quite a few matches there over the years, and just everything that happened on the field, off the field, it made for a pretty ugly night. And on top of it, you lose against your biggest rival, and you exit the Canadian Championship for the earliest ever. The earliest ever. Prior to that, it was semifinals and finals, but never in the quarterfinals. And to do so against CF Montreal, I think that stings a lot. This team has got a lot on its plate right now. Of course, there's a lot of injuries. A lot of key guys are out, and a lot of key guys are going to be out for quite some time. And then you have to try and make do. I mean, obviously, right now, if you look at the standings, you say, well, they've had a lot of draws. They haven't had a lot of wins. Just one win for Toronto in their last 8 games now. But you're only 2 points back of a playoff spot in the MLS calendar. So if you look at the bright side, there's that for sure. But everything that happened on the pitch, off the pitch, it was tough to see for TFC fans.
Matt, Sergio here. Thanks for joining us. I love that you said that we're only 2 points behind. I say we. I'm still a TFC fan at heart. I love that you say TFC is only 2 points behind, because you're right. Through all the negative things that are going on, we're only 2 points behind. What do you think could be our first fix that we can see to make progress into better days?
I mean, I think they have to address the situation in midfield. I mean, that right now is very concerning. Without Jonathan Osorio, without Michael Bradley, of course, the reports this past week and confirmed by Bob, the coach, that Michael Bradley's going to be going overseas for a hamstring procedure. That's pretty concerning for someone at his age. Now, the doctor that they're going to see is one of the best. There's been a long list of very successful and currently successful professional athletes that have had this procedure. Of course, the concern is that Michael Bradley is 35 years old, right? How quickly can he recover? So I think there's a need in midfield. Jonathan Osorio is still not able to play, and then the young Spanish midfielder who I thought really started to find a nice role for himself, Alonso Coelho. He suffered what sounds like a pretty serious ankle injury. So put all of that together, there's a lot of missing parts in there. They do have some extremely talented players up front. They also have a great veteran keeper in Sean Johnson. So there are some pieces, but you need to get some help in midfield, and then sounds like even the back line is in tough shape now as well. So that'd be the two places where I would look.
You talk about the midfield with Bradley being out now, and the back line, those two center backs that were supposed to come in and right the ship. Do you feel like TFC might need to undergo sort of a reinvention or a passing of the torch here, because it just doesn't seem to be working with the current roster?
Yeah, ever since the arrival of the two big names with Bernadeschi and Insigne, I think Toronto FC has only won 14 of its matches. I think I read the other day 27 of a possible 72 points.
Not good.
That is not great when you have such talented players and you have such a big payroll. So that I think is the issue. But I think you have to try and see it out to this season. I think you have to try and build around those players. The upcoming the summer transfer window is coming up. I mean, I think that obviously you hope that you get some players back, you get some players healthy, but there's going to be some commitments this summer as well, right? National team commitments, Gold Cup, Nations League. It's sometimes star players, and there are a couple of them for Toronto that play for the national team. they're not going to be available. But I do think that you have enough there. You obviously like to get some players healthy, and this is an opportune time to see what you have from inside your academy. There's a couple of TFC2 players that made the trip to Montreal today to try and help out. So they get an opportunity. So Croatia was one of those players who was thrust into a role, did pretty well, and that's what the hope is right now. And if not, then you have to go out and do some shopping.
And Matt, do you think that Insigne, because there's been a lot of talk by fans that Insigne doesn't seem like he wants to be here. Bernadeschi is now struggling to score goals. Do you think that they have lived up to their hype, or do you think it's it's their fault, or not their fault? But do you think that they're playing at a lower level than they should be, or it's just that the team isn't allowing them to shine as much as they could be shining if they had everybody healthy?
Yeah, I think it's the second there, Sergio. I think it's exactly that. I mean, they've had some serious moments of quality, and that's what you'd love to see. But you'd love to see that consistently, and they're obviously getting frustrated with the way things are going. I mean, that to me on Tuesday's Canadian Championship quarterfinal, that was the most evident. It was when you lose a ball, you throw your hands in the air. And you start, and there was some complaining and things like that. Instead of running back 10 yards and getting back in a position and talking about it, right? So I think that there's some body language issues there, and I think that can help. But everybody's a competitor. Everybody wants to win, and obviously when the team isn't winning, they feel the frustration for sure. So I think that this match in Montreal is going to be a big one. I mean, if you're a Toronto fan, you would hate to lose to your biggest rival two times in a row, and especially 2 times in the same week. So I think there is some time to turn it around. I mean, I thought just a couple of weeks ago they played pretty well against NYCFC, and they held a clean sheet. And Sean Johnson's had 4 clean sheets this year, and CFC had only had 5 over 2 years before his arrival. So I think there has been some improvement. Obviously, the health situation is concerning, but I do think that. Long way of answering your question. I don't think they've lived up to their star power, but I think that there is still a possibility that things turn around.
In conversation with Matt Cullen, and Matt, we've talked about the big guys, Bernadeschi and Insigne, and it's their first time going to Montreal. Do you think a big game from these two can help write their names in the historic rivalry that is CF Montreal TFC?
Absolutely. I mean, that's the way this industry works. We're on the broadcasting side, but they're on the pitch. But I really feel it's the same thing. You're really people only really remember your last performance or your last couple of performances. So if Toronto FC plays super well defensively and Bernadeschi has a moment of quality, Insigne, who's had so many dangerous looking free kicks, if he has a moment of quality, then I think that can go a long way in trying to help this story. And yes, it's a big rivalry. Montreal would love nothing more to try and stick it to their biggest rival in front of their fans. We know what's happened this past week where the ugly scenes inside. They've decided to ban Toronto supporters from this match. So that place is going to be rocking. That place is going to want. It's going to be physical. Everybody's going to want to see a physical matchup, and that's exactly what I'm expecting later on today. And but a couple of moments of quality, and I think in a strong game and some better body language, I think that could go a long way.
Matt, I'm not sure if you're able to answer this question as you're calling the game. Prediction for tonight, and 3, maybe one player from each team that you're expecting a big game from.
Oh, predictions are always tough for me. I mean, I'll do my best. I'll start with part 2 first. Okay. I think that one player to watch for CF Montreal. I'll give you 2. I was really impressed by the play of Aaron Herrera over the past couple of games. I thought he was basically single-handedly responsible for scoring both Montreal's goals against Orlando City, and only played, I think, 20-odd minutes in the Canadian Championship quarterfinal. But, he's a big difference maker. Spoke to him this week. I think that, he really is finding his own as a wing back. And I think that he didn't really quite have a grasp on what Hernan Lozada was expecting of him in the current structure and the team's play. I think now he's really got it. And I've really been impressed by Mathieu Choinière as well. He's He's knocking at the door for more minutes. I think at John Herdman's door for the national team. I think that he's been great as well. And then I think that for Toronto FC, I mean, we've talked about the big guns, so I'll try and move in another direction.
Yeah, stay away from those two.
Yeah, I think that Marc-Anthony Kaye is a big one for me. He hasn't scored in his last 9 goals. I know that's not his main job, but if he can help be part of the attack, help give some service up front, I think that's desperately needed. And there's a lot of pressure on Marc-Anthony Kaye because he's a lot of guys around him are now not available, so he needs to have a big game, and there's going to be some youngsters around him. So prediction-wise, I think it's a close game. Why don't we do it that way? I think that I think we get some late drama. Let's put it that way. Late drama and about program.
All right.
Okay.
I like it. Matt, before we let you go, I got 2 more questions for you really quick here. First one, we've talked a lot about TFC, obviously. I want to turn the attention over to CF Montreal, the other team in this match, and they've kind of turned their season around after a really tough start. Can you speak to maybe what has helped them find their footing here as we near the middle of the season?
Well, one is confidence, for sure. One is confidence. I had the opportunity to cover CF Montreal earlier this year on a couple of road games. Their opener in Miami, and then they had a trip to Nashville in the third match day of the year. And from what I see now to what I see then, it's just night and day. The confidence is there. This is a team that knows how to play within its structure, and they're doing it. And in fact, over the last 5 games, where they've won 5 in a row in all competitions, they've outscored their opponents 10-1. Really, really enjoying what I'm seeing from Jonathan Sirois, who Sergio knows quite well from his days at Valor FC. Great to see him jump into that role, because there were some tough moments. They lost 5-0 in Vancouver. Then the next week they lost 4-0 in New England. You're thinking, yikes! Something's got to give here. But they've really turned it around. They have a good structure now. I think the 3-5-2 is usually what they play. And I really like Herrera as a wing back. That's where he thrives. He thrives there. He's able to jump up into the attack a lot more. So I enjoy that. And plus, they're getting healthy too, right? They were missing quite a few players earlier this year, and they still are. Samuel Piet is still out of the lineup, but they've had some players elevate. Kyoto is now back, and he's a clinical goal scorer. He scored in the last MLS match, I believe, as well, or one of the last ones. So I think that just the fact that they're getting healthy, they're getting to know their new coach, new manager, and the fact that they've really got a lot more confidence, I think really helps. But things look bad. Things look very bad in Montreal, and I think that CFC fans can kind of look at that and say, hey, listen, hopefully this is rock bottom. Hopefully we can go up from here, because it's really turned around for Montreal.
Yeah, you're right on that. And before I let you go, last question here. I'm going to flip it back to TFC. Lots of questions surrounding one Bob Bradley and his future with the club, obviously after the recent spell of poor performances. At what point do you think his job actually does come into question for the higher-ups within the club? Yeah,
as I've been asked that a couple of times over the last couple of weeks, and particularly now that the tough performances are coming up. I mean, but I think if there's one man to try and fix it, I mean, he's got 15 years in the MLS. He's coming up to his 200th career MLS win. Now, obviously, things haven't gone the way he had hoped in Toronto. But I think that if there's a man for the job, I think that he has seen it all. Right? He's seen it all. He's been with the American national team. He's been all over the MLS, including some fantastic teams. Even going back to the days of DC United, when they were back-to-back MLS Cup champions. LAFC was a powerhouse as well. So this is a guy that has done a lot of winning. And I think that he's just got to try and find the right tone with the 2 stars, get them back on board, get them back playing within a system. I think that a couple of strong performances, 2-3 strong performances, and I think we're moving on to something else with this team.
Yeah, I think everyone in Toronto is hoping for exactly that there, Matt. Matt Cullen, really appreciate you joining us today, man, and good luck on the call. Should be an entertaining match for sure.
Thanks for having me, and really appreciate it. And Sergio, really enjoyed calling your Canadian Premier League matches. So keep up the good work.
Awesome, man. Thank you. Enjoy tonight.
Thank you.